Petal Savvy. Today we're going to talk about everything you need to know on how to construct a basic bouquet. I'm going to show you the fundamentals that you're going to need in order to put together a beautiful bouquet. So the first thing is cleaning your stems and getting everything prepped. And roses are like the most challenging thing, I think, because of the thorns. So we are going to pick up this beautiful hearts rose, and I'm going to show you. These guys are sharp, so you want to be careful the week of your wedding. Maybe have, somebody else whose hands are not going to be photographed clean the roses for you. So I'm going to use the stem stripper and show you how easy it can be. So I recommend that you hold it below the first notch on the rose, because sometimes if you hold it here and you pull down, the rose head will pop off. And if it does, that's okay. That becomes flowers for your cake, right? So we're just gonna take our stem stripper, hold the rose in there, hold firmly but gently below that first notch, and pull down. You can see how quickly and easily that does that. So for spray roses, sometimes you can just do it with your hands, and other roses, this is a Kahala rose. They don't have hardly any thorns at all. And in fact, sometimes their leaves are so firm on there. You can see this one doesn't have a really high, close to the head notch, so you don't have to hold it, below here, obviously. But it's a little harder. So in that case, when they don't have a lot of thorns, you can just pop them off with your hands. These are quicksand, almost everybody's favorite. And again, we're just gonna strip the stem down. But for flowers that don't have thorns, it's a lot easier. Ranunculus, sometimes you don't have to do anything. They're great. Ranunculus anemones sometimes will have little leaves or offshoots like this. I like to keep the buds on them. You can pull them off if you prefer. This one broke. And if you have the little offshoots that have a bud, I like to keep those. They look really cute on cakes and in other areas, boutonnieres. If you get a rose, or not a rose, a ranunculus, and it has broken or bent, that can also become a boutonniere. It's not trash, it's normal, it happens. Don't panic, it's okay. With the peonies, again, no thorns. You just strip them down and they're good to go. And then line flowers. I've already pre-cleaned this, but it's very similar. It has really short, soft little leaves. So those are snapdragons and this is stalk. And you just gently pull down the stem. Not too firm because you'll hurt your hand. Okay, so I've shown you pretty much basically how to clean your typical flowers. I'm going to show you how to clean the roses without this, because you may not be able to get your hands on one. Hopefully you buy one from us, but if you don't, let me show you. So what you'll do first, be careful when you grab it. Thorns bite, it's not fun. So you want to remove the foliage so you can see where all the thorns are. And be careful, because sometimes the foliage actually has little thorns on the back of the leaves that can hook you, particularly with certain spray roses. And certain spray roses will also have little bitty thorns way up here, so you want to be mindful of that. So you can actually take the thorns and pop them off just with your fingers. Just push with your thumb, it'll pop off. You want to be careful and avoid doing that. I do it all the time when I don't have my stem stripper. Another thing that you can do is take a knife, and you want to move the flower, not the knife. That way there's no risk of you cutting yourself. But you can pop them off like that. So we'll have a video on how to use a floral knife, but that was basically how you can do that. So moving on to prepping our greenery. I have some seeded eucalyptus here, and sometimes it comes in and it has new seeds and they're really cute and they're green, and sometimes it comes in and they have fuller seeds and we just never know. So you could get a box that has both. They send you from the farm what is the best product at the time, and we kind of trust their judgment on that. So you'll want to pick off any leaves that have sort of some discoloration, or especially with seeded eucalyptus, people tend to just want the seeds. So we're going to clean the leaves off of this particular one. I liked the leaves on the other ones, so we're going to leave those on. Dusty Miller is very easy. You basically just pick off anything that is kind of low. It tends to be a floppier flower, so you'll want to support, or not flower, but greenery, so you want to kind of support it with other flowers. And now, let's talk about silver dollar eucalyptus. What are you supposed to do with this for a bouquet? You break it up. So just start pulling off the laterals. Just pull them. Once you do that, lay them down. And if you have little small pieces like this that you have to pull off, save them. They're great for centerpieces or boutonnieres or anything like that. So you want to consider that in a bouquet, you're only going to have 4 to 6 inches of greenery really coming out in any direction. So you want to get your stems cleaned, and you want to have a little bit of length on them. You don't want to cut them too short because then they won't be able to drain it. So you want them to be overall about 12 to 14 inches, maybe a little longer if you want to get real wild with your bouquet. So we're just going to clean. You have some little broken pieces, that's all right. Just save the longer part. Pull off the little guys. This one you can actually separate right there at the notch and clean it so that you have 2 individual pieces. Italian ruscus is really fun to work with too. It has a lot of options. You can see it's incredibly long, so if you're doing a cascade bouquet, this is a great one to take advantage of. We're not designing a cascade bouquet today, we're doing a basic. So I'm going to show you a little, kind of like a trick or a cheat to help give you fullness in the center of your bouquet when you're first building. So you just basically tie it in a knot like this, and if you have any extra length, you can loop it back through one more time. So if you do that a couple of times, if you have 2 stems that are like that, it's going to create a nice full base for you to support the other flowers. Using hydrangea is a great way to also create an armature for your bouquet. An armature is a support system, but if you don't have hydrangea, like we're not working with hydrangea today, this is a great way to do it. Definitely not necessary, but a nice sneaky tip. And then this is a nice little fun one. It would have been great to do the same technique with that. We are going to cut them in half, and what I'm going to do is pull off these lower pieces. We're going to save these bits. These hold up really well out of water, so if you just want to actually save them in a Ziploc bag, spritz them with a little bit of water, you can save those for boutonniere and corsage work. So we just wanted a couple little loose pieces of this. We're going to do the same thing over here. And now we're ready to build. That's the fun part. So now that we have everything prepped, cleaned, and ready, what I'm going to do is start with our greenery base. Like I said, this just makes it so much easier to kind of begin. So I'm just going to kind of take them and overlap them. I know it looks like a little crazy right now. If you have anything that's coming down too far and you don't quite like that, you can cut it out later, or you can cut it out now. It's however you want to do it. So you want to hold the stems gently, a little loose in your hands, and then as you build, you're going to rotate. So you're going to figure out what's comfortable for you if you want to rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. It's really just personal preference. But you're always going to want to insert the stems the same angle and rotate. You want to overlap them, like so. Okay. We're going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to show you some really fun tricks with the roses. So you see how this quicksand rose is nice and open, and this one hasn't quite gotten there yet. So some roses you can actually spin to get them to open. And you can give them a quick little blow into the center. Now kahalas, you can kind of do that a little bit when they are a little more mature. You can see that helps to open it up a little bit. You can also reflex them. I left a little bit of greenery on that one because I liked the greenery, but we're going to take it off because we have plenty of greenery. So you can see that one opened up a lot more. And at this point, before you start building, you want to pick off any petals that have any sort of imperfections that you don't like. I tend to actually like the guard petals unless they are incredibly damaged, especially when they have different hues like this. I think it's very visually interesting, and it's all personal preference. So you want to inspect all of your flowers for imperfections before you begin building. Sometimes they just need a little bit of help. So you can see this looks a lot like a David Austin garden rose, which are incredibly expensive. This is not incredibly expensive. It's a lot more affordable. And we love that. We love little money-saving dupes, right? Everybody loves a dupe. So these are our David Austin garden roses dupe. Looks like a Juliet. This one, he might spin. Let's try it. He did a little bit. So pretty. And another thing that you could do is reflex them so that they end up looking like this. Looks like a totally different flower. The way you do that is by gently taking the flower petal and turning it inside out on its own. And they might tear a little bit like this, and that's okay. But you just keep going. Sometimes they want to pop back into place. They have other plans. They're like, no, we don't want to be reflexed. Some roses do not play nice with the spinning and the reflexing. Basically, the ones that do well will have softer petals. So if your rose feels really tight and really firm, it's probably not going to like to be reflexed. So look how beautiful that is. I'm going to give my little hearts a spin so that they open up a little bit more. I love the cabbagey roses. Hearts are a garden rose. And they're good for your burgundy and blush looks. So now that we have all of our flowers open and prepped, and we've kind of picked through and made sure that they all look how we want them to, we are going to start building. And I am just not going to be picky about it and start alternating. So again, when I design, I turn my bouquet that way, and I like to have my stems angled to my left. But there's really no wrong or right way to angle and spin, as long as you angle them all in the same direction. You can spin it in either direction. So we're just going to start adding things. And kind of alternating our textures. Add a little bit of Dusty Miller in there. Now the bouquet that we are making today is just more of a classic, kind of round, romantic, a little gardeny look. And you can see I'm very loosely holding the stems, like making the okay sign. And I'm trying to angle all the stems in the same direction. It's going to create a nice spiral effect. Now I'm going to add some of the stock and snapdragons. We're going to add a little bit of color and a little bit of height. And if you don't like this crazy look, but you want that burgundy color, you can actually pinch off the tips and just have that little pop of color in there. It's just unexpected and really vibrant and beautiful. Some things like to sneak down and fall down, and that's okay. You can kind of adjust it as you go and pull things back up. That is normal. That is, don't get frustrated if your stems are slipping, because it's just what happens. And I'm going to keep adding more flowers and building. So for this bouquet, we have these gorgeous coral peonies. They are coral charms, and coral charms happen to be my favorite flower of all time. Just, you know, fun fact. Already loving the way this is looking. I want to add in one of these ranunculus. I'm going to pop them up a little higher. And again, you want to hold gently. You want to make sure that they're angled. That's going to ensure that they're not putting a lot of pressure on one another, because if they do that and they crinkle one another, they're going to have a hard time drinking. You want to make sure that your flowers stay beautiful and hydrated. So we're just going to keep adding and rotating. I'm going to add some more of these amazing peonies. I love them so much. Another one of these snapdragons. And I kind of like the way that looks in there with just the pop of the color and not the tip. So I'm going to pull these off, and again, you can save these, put them on the cake. Save everything. Scraps are money. You want to make sure that you are using everything that you can. Already looks so beautiful. But I still have so many more flowers to go. We may not use the entire recipe that we needed. Sometimes flowers come in and they're a little larger, which we got very lucky with our product this week. I mean, not uncommon. Coral charms are known to be big beauties, and so are the roses that we picked. They're very consistent, and that's one of the reasons why I love quicksands and hearts so much. At the end of this, I will also include what our recommended recipe was and then what we actually used. The recommended recipe is important because even though you may not use everything that was listed, sometimes when you order product, you can anticipate that about 5 to 10% of what comes in is just not going to be usable, and that's normal. Anticipate that. That is to be expected, and when you buy from us, we do have that disclaimer saying, you know, flowers are perishable, and you get 25 roses in a bunch, you should expect about 22 good ones. I just love the texture of Dusty Miller. It's so soft and so romantic. I'm trying to figure out what I want to put here. First of all, I'm going to pop these beautiful white Mahalika spray roses out. And I think I want to add the burgundy spray roses right here. Pop out this Dusty Miller a little. Pop this out. You can kind of hold it back and look at it to see the shape of it. You can also have a mirror near you if you want to design your bouquet in the bathroom, or bring in a full-length mirror, just so that you can see what you're doing. I highly recommend doing that, or just making regular checks, like going in to wherever the nearest mirror is. And Yeah, I'm gonna add a couple more ranunculus, but honestly guys, I think we are about done with this. It is gorgeous. You can see the stems are all spiraling, which is what you want. I love this bud on here. He is so precious. Add this. And I think another heart. I'm looking at this now and I feel like there's red, kind of here and there. There's no red over here. So I am going to, there's burgundy here and burgundy here. We need at least one more pop of that burgundy. So I think personally, I feel that things look better in odd numbers. It's more visually pleasing typically. So I'm going to add that little pop of burgundy in right there. So you have the 3 little pops of burgundy. You could add 2 more, so you have 5. I wouldn't do 4. And I want to do 1 more peony over here because we're doing a fairly symmetrical look. So I'm going to put him in right there. And really it's just about examining the color balance between your flowers and the shapes and the sizes and deciding where you think it's going to look the best. You know, it's your bouquet. You want to make sure that you love it. And if you're not quite sure, if you can't figure something out, ask one of your friends. Say, hey, what do you think this needs? And go from there. I'm going to rotate this, pop this up over here. It's really easy when they're angled to adjust the stems. So that's another reason why it is important to angle the stems. Got to get that little other pop of red over here, and I love these Rubicon spray roses. We're going to support this floppy dusty miller over here with this. And then we're going to add just a little piece of our Italian ruscus right there. I feel like he's a little greenless over here, so I'm just going to take a little bit more of this younger seeded eucalyptus and a little bit more of the more mature seeded eucalyptus that still has the leaves on it. Kind of fill it in over here. All right, so I'm going to add 1 more ranunculus. Support this a little bit more. You gotta support that dusty miller. So make sure that they are in there really nicely up. So this happened. Sometimes the stems will bend if there's too much pressure. So again, we can use that in the centerpiece or somewhere else later. And I think that that happened with me fiddling with it, trying to hold up the dusty miller. This one is doing it just nicely. Okay, so we're gonna add this pretty baby. Now when you're adding at the end, obviously you can't really angle it as much, but you can still try. So I'm gonna insert this and kind of try and angle it out. So once he's in there, I'm gonna put him in the front and angle it. Worked just fine. Awesome. So that is that. So once you get your bouquet to this point, how do you secure it? So some people like to use zip ties. I personally don't like using zip ties. I feel like it puts a lot of really hard pressure onto the stems. And we're just gonna cut these stems down. You wanna be as quick as possible when you're cutting your stems. I'm gonna cut them a little long, and then I'm gonna rubber band it, and then I'm gonna cut it again. The reason that I'm doing this is because when a stem is cut, it automatically starts to form a seal on the end of it. It starts to dry out. And it's like trying to heal itself basically, and it's not gonna be able to drink. So what I do is I take my pinky and I take a rubber band that I have saved from when I was pulling everything out of their packaging. And I loosely bind it 2 or 3 times depending on the size of the rubber band. And I like doing this too because then I can hold the stems, hold the bouquet, and like adjust it really easily. and it's not putting a lot of pressure on those stems. So what I'm going to do now is take another, hook it around my thumb, and rubber band the base. And I'm just going to take the whole bouquet now and try and cut through it as quickly as possible so that we can get it into water. This works better with bunch cutters. And I'm going to put it in water. You can see that the ends of all my stems are in the water. So this seeded eucalyptus stem is a little shorter. So I'm actually going to adjust him. Just pull it down slightly. And I'm going to pull off this one that was really low here and this one. Just so it's going to be closer to the end with the other ones. So once it's been in the water for a second, the stems are nice and wet, you can take your ribbon and start to wrap it. You can also wrap the day of your wedding, which is a good idea because sometimes the stems will grow a little. Certain flowers will grow, like lisianthus will actually get longer, tulips will actually get longer. And again, that's another reason why I really like using the rubber bands. So I'm just going to do a couple of final adjustments. I'm going to pop these gorgeous spray roses up just a little bit more because I'm in love. And then this one in the center is a little far down for me. But it's all personal preference. You want to make sure that it's fairly round, if that's the look that you're going for, which that's what this tutorial was about. You want to look at it from all angles, lower whatever you need to, lengthen whatever you need to, and then just check the levels of your stems to make sure that they're all still going to be in the water. Then you want to take your ribbon. Another reason why I like using rubber bands is that I can start by inserting it through there and it holds the ribbon for me. So then I'm just going to rotate and gently wrap that ribbon around, tight and firm. I like to kind of twist my ribbon as I go. That's personal preference, you don't have to. I just like the texture that it gives on the wrap. It's really beautiful. Kind of makes it look like a gown that's been ruched. And then I have to decide where my front is. So I naturally have one side over here that he doesn't have a whole lot, so I feel like that would be a good place for it to be the back of the bouquet. So that you can actually lay that down on a surface. You know, brides are always laying things down in between photos or what have you. So I feel like that would be a good place for that. So I'm just going to see what the opposite of that looks like for the front. Oh yeah, that is gorgeous. You have these beautiful spray roses peeking out in front and ranunculus and just peonies everywhere. Yeah, this was a beauty. And then you just want to cut your ribbon. And I like to fold over the end of the ribbon. I fold it in half, and then I fold it under itself. And then I just take a couple of corsage pins and push it upwards into the stems through the ribbon. And anything that you adjusted, you can cut one last time. Put it back in the water. And you're done. You can mist it with Crowning Glory, lightly spray it, and leave it out of the fridge. It doesn't need to be refrigerated overnight. You're good to go. Thank you so much for joining me for this Petal Savvy course on Bouquet Design Basics. If you found this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. You can also visit us at www.petalsavvy.com.